So this is a little introduction to my project. We've got an SV250 Bombardier. It's a 1971 vintage, and it started out to be a good runner in that. It just had a few little minor things wrong with it, but we decided to do a little floor mat cleaning project, which turned into a full-blown Restomod. So we decided we're going to turn this into a 5-man cab, and quickly realized that there was no floor left. So as we decided, we'd pull the engine out in order to get at the chassis, as it needed some deep cleaning and getting some of that cankerous rust out. So as long as we had that up, we decided we'd add some angle iron into the sides to stiffen the tub up. And as long as we had that out, we might as well go through the motor, and it's a good thing we did. We found out that the head was cracked on it, and it was running pretty bad. So we took and put new rings, pistons, mains, seals, yeah, you name it, we did it. So put new exhaust and intake manifolds onto it, added a high output alternator, and then went ahead and put an affordable EFI kit on it. So there would be no vapor locking issues or hard starts or any of that. As long as we had the transmission off, we took it to a tranny shop and had them go through it. So sandblasted and repainted the tub. Got ready 2 years from the date that we pulled the motor out, we put the motor back in. So, and this here starts the time lapse of this project. So this takes place over a week, in which I am very fortunate my family was able to help me with the project. So, and several trips to the steel shop, along with Home Depot and Menards, to get a couple random things. But the main structure is going to be just made out of 2-inch square tubing, and then the rollover protection is also going to be with 2-inch square tubing. Then some of the side stiffeners and lighter material will be made out of 1-inch square tubing or 1-inch angle iron. And the interesting thing about this design here is it's bolted on top of that angle iron that we added on the chassis. So that gives us the ability, 8 bolts, and the whole entire superstructure comes off. So that'd be a nice feature if you ever needed to change, do another full-blown engine pull on it. You just lift the whole cab right off, and you'd be back to the bare tub chassis again. So it's just squaring and welding up the rollover protection. And then as we get things trued up and squared on, and that mainly being careful when we're welding everything, that especially on the square tubing, that you leave a channel for water to get outlet. As this goes from hot to cold, the moisture builds up inside and you need drain holes and stuff. So adding stuff in and doing it right takes a little while. But like I said, this takes place over a week, so it did go pretty fast. It's all the interior stuff that takes the longest. So, and as we were doing this, we would be sure to leave some channels in that, conduit routes for running wire, adding everything in and allowing enough room for movement of steering controls and the such. It is currently winter out, so see everything move across the shop, and then that big wide open space on the other side is filled up with our tractor and our feed wagon for the cattle. So I'm only allowed to work on this in the afternoons and evenings, and then have to pull the equipment back in so it doesn't freeze up. Using the plasma torch helps a lot, especially on getting those weird angles and getting into tight spots for doing some cutting in that. We do have a big acetylene torch for doing some of the heavier cutting, but that plasma torch seems to be the go-to for any type of cutting. Picked up a chop saw. It's an Evolution, it's a newer one, and that thing with carbide tips cuts unbelievable. Don't have the distortion and the heat from using a chop saw blade. And it does a nice clean cut. Tool I'm using right here is a DeWalt die grinder, and it doesn't matter if you're DeWalt, Milwaukee, Ryobi, Rigid, whatever you got batteries for, that's the best tool to get. But that die grinder sure is handy. You can rough out any hole with the plasma torch and then follow through with that die grinder and even those holes right up, make them perfectly sized for dropping bolts in. A lot of welding on here. I've used over 10 pounds of 35 wire on the framework alone. Here I'm jacking up the back, taking out one of the center supports across the middle. It's braced up on the other sides by 2 by 3 inch angle iron. With that center support out there, that gives better access to the differential, the steering bands, and any kind of work you need to do right back there. It's supported by 3/4 inch plywood that'll span over it, along with the angle iron on the side. So really wasn't needed there for structure. Just it's nice to have that out of the road right now. Here we're starting the front clip, building that up as we go. This front clip on here is going to give an extra foot of space in the cab. You can see we're test fitting the seat on there, making sure everything sits in where it needs to be. So the interesting design change with having the seat where it is right behind it, there'll be a bench crossways in there. Join me for part 2 to see the continuation, and if you like this video, give me a thumbs up, and look forward to seeing you on the next one.